Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today, where you boys always have something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog.
And I'm your host, Adam Peddle. And today, guys, the Blue Jays are in dire shape. They got their own players calling out the Toronto Blue Jays. You got analytics. You got analysts calling out the Toronto Blue Jays. You got their own fans calling and attacking the Toronto Blue Jays. It feels like there's really bad times to be a Blue Jay fan, but hey, maybe there could be a savior at the end of the day. This coming Thursday, we're going to talk about Mark Shapiro and his media appearance. What should we expect to hear from him, and how could he possibly save this franchise for the 2024 season, guys?
Yeah.
This is going to be a heavy one, folks.
Yeah, I mean, there's just been so much stuff that's come out recently, right? It feels like after that loss, there was just so many things that people were bottling up, saving, holding on to, waiting to get out. And now that the season's over, it's just, it's all coming out. And when it rains, it pours, right? And you're right, it just feels like so many people have so many negative things to say about these Toronto Blue Jays. And it just makes your head spin, man. It just really makes your head spin and wonder about the future of this franchise, of this team as a whole.
Yeah, we're going to get all into it, guys, because there's a ton. Like, one of the shocking ones, maybe we'll even start with this. One of the shocking ones is when you hear Ken Rosenthal coming out and saying that the Toronto Blue Jays are overrated.
Yep.
A guy who is typically unbiased calls it how it is. That's why I like Ken Rosenthal. And he's calling the Blue Jays how it is. He recently said earlier today that, yeah, we're overrated here, folks. We're overrated. And what are your thoughts on that? That Ken Rosenthal is basically saying, until we prove otherwise, we're basically paper tigers.
Yeah, that's brutal, man. And Ken Rosenthal, he is not the type of guy to regularly call people out. You know, like, we're talking about the nice guy with a bow tie on.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about the dude who, you know, feels like he should be on a maple syrup bottle, you know, like friendly in your home, right? And he's calling us out and saying that we're overrated and we're paper tigers, right? And you just don't often hear this from Ken Rosenthal, but he's got a great point, right? He's effectively saying that, you know, you gotta prove it on the field, and these players, they lack that clutch capability, and you see this time and time again, right? You see this in all sports. You look good on paper, you know, everything is lining up, you know, that it should work out, and then for whatever reason, it just kind of falls short. You know, you saw that with the New York Mets this season, where they looked incredible. They were like paper Godzillas, you know, like they were incredible, and it just didn't work out. And then you see the flip side of things, and I know that they just got swept in the postseason, but the Tampa Bay Rays were very regularly, you look at that team and you go, who the hell is on this team? Who is this pitcher? And for whatever reason, they just continuously seem to find a way. I think he's got a great point there, man, saying that, yeah, we're strong on paper, but can we make it translate to actually winning ball games? I don't know.
Well, here's the thing, you know, when the Blue Jays, they had Vladdy coming up, you had Kevin Biggio, you had Bo Bichette. I mean, at the time, you also had Nate Pearson. You saw that there was potential in this Toronto Blue Jays future, and that's why so many people were getting hyped. And you saw a couple breakouts. You saw Vladdy 2021. You saw Bo Bichette just being consistent his entire career. You see, you know, them acquire all these big free agents, and they really didn't give you any reason to not believe that they'd continue to make these steps. This was the last step. You had to keep moving up, right? You didn't make it in 2021. You made it 2022. Then I think the way you lost in 2023 really just puts an exclamation point there. Like, not only did you not advance forward, but you regressed backwards in the way you lost that series. And quite frankly, 89 wins, the lowest since 2019, not counting the COVID year. That's a big failure.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a big failure.
And I think that the whole paper tigers, I think that when I really think about that statement, I almost think that there's a double meaning to it, because we're strong on paper. We're so strong on paper, we can't deliver on the field. But we also rely on paper consistently. And I'm referring to analytics, everybody. Whit Merrifield feels the exact same way that I do. He was on a podcast literally today, everybody, and he had so much to say about the Toronto Blue Jays, and specifically diving into the analytics and Jose Berrios' exit. You know, he said that he was confused. He said he was frustrated. He says that there is a paralysis by analysis, right? And I thought that was just an exceptional quotation.
Great quote.
I think that it's something that, Toronto Blue Jays, we probably suffer from. He says that, he doesn't know, he's not privy to the conversations. He doesn't know what happens behind the closed doors where they're making all of these decisions. He even went on to say, and I mean, take this how you will, but he was upset at the fact that he wasn't given an opportunity in the postseason. What do you think about this entire narrative that the Toronto Blue Jays have now kind of turned their entire ship around and are relying way too much on analytics? And then what do you think about Whit Merrifield as a whole in these entire comments?
See, here's the thing. I think the Blue Jays in the last couple of years, and you saw this with Charlie Montoyo, like they still used a lot of analytics. We're only 1 year removed from having when there was a shift in play, the most dramatic shift of any team in the MLB. Like our outfield, we were the team that had the highest 4-man outfield. We had the highest shift rated, right? Like, so we always had analytics in the game, but for some reason this year, and we don't know if it's John Schneider. We don't know. We actually heard some rumblings. It could be another guy in the organization. We don't know if it's the analytics department. Well, clearly, it's not Ross Atkins because he didn't own up to it. But for whatever reason, it seemed like as soon as we got to the playoffs, we felt the need that analytics needed to be ramped up to 300%.
Right.
The way we got here to the postseason, we're going to forget about that. We were lied on starting pitching, right? And I think I totally get what Merrifield's coming from. We relied on 7-inning outings from Jose Berrios, from Kevin Gausman to get us through this season, not only just to give us innings and give our bullpen rest, but because those were quality innings. And you saw Jose Berrios about to have the best outing out there. I understand why Whit Merrifield feels the way he has, and he's not going to be a Blue Jay next year. He has a mutual option, not a chance. We're not picking it up. He's not picking it up. I am glad that he is calling out the Blue Jays, and you know what? Good, because somebody in the organization that was a part of it needed to come out and say it. I'm all for. I kind of hope that there's more news and there's more frustrations about this team coming out moving forward.
Yeah, and I do think that you're right. Like when you come out and when you start talking like this, man, it is pretty abundantly clear that at this point of the game, you're probably not going to be picked up by the Toronto Blue Jays. He's probably aware of that, just didn't come out and say it. Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not going to get played in the playoffs, they're not going to pay you $18 million.
Bro, that's that's the other thing you said there at the end was, yo, buddy, I'm sorry, I said this right before the podcast. It was whoever was the hottest going into that stretch. We did not have a good, consistent offense. Yeah, you had a great first 4 months with Merrifield. Last 2 months, I mean, I know you're not an analytics guy, but if you look at your analytics, they weren't that good in the last 2 months. So in that regard, I would lean on that easier analytics. That's just easier.
But that's where it is, right? I mean, like there needs to be a happy medium.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, like yes, Whit Merrifield wasn't playing great leading up to that entire postseason. He didn't play, but then you ask yourself, okay, well, what about David Schneider, for instance? I know that there was a bunch of people calling out the Toronto Blue Jays saying, well, why don't we at least give him an opportunity, right? Especially like pinch hitting him at moments, for somebody like Espinal, for somebody who was in the postseason games and weren't getting it done. And in my opinion, something like that, I do agree with, right? And I think it really is a situational thing. And the Toronto Blue Jays, especially in that post-game series, they weren't using it situationally. They were really relying on it as a crutch and trying to be a team that they're not. It's almost like we wanted so desperately, so badly to be the Tampa Bay Rays, and we're just not. It's like we aren't that squad.
Exactly.
We've never been the Tampa Bay Rays. The Toronto Blue Jays have always been known as a club that mashes home runs and has big offense, and has big sluggers, and that really wasn't the identity of this team at all. And it felt like we were just trying to like squish a square into a circular space, and it just wasn't working. So I do hear what Merrifield's coming from. I do think that we kind of got paralyzed here by all of this analysis, and I think that there needs to be a happy medium moving forward where it's like, yes, you want to integrate it into your game because it is the future of baseball, but to an extent, and we just haven't figured that out yet.
I think it comes simply down to you got to use your eyes. And the same thing that you're saying, you got to realize and use your eyes that we're not the Tampa Bay Rays, right? We have I don't want to call them superstars. We have star pitchers, right? We have Kevin Gausman, we have Jose Berrios. They can give you quality innings. If they give up a couple hits like Jose Berrios did in the beginning, they're about to lock it down now for 4 or 5 innings. And I think he even said there too, the Twins were happy that they pulled out Jose Berrios. He said, I'd be happy too if I only had to face him one time. Like that's a miracle. So I think that the Blue Jays, you really got to take a step back.
Yeah.
And that's also what Mark needs to address. I think he needs to, for me to make me feel a little bit better about the analytics side of things, first he needs to blame, like someone needs to hold that decision accountable. Who was that decision? Was it an organization? Was it a person? Who was that? and just apologize. Say so, like it's not gonna happen, but that's what I need to hear. And then you need to also reassess your thinking with analytics. Take a step back because you gotta use the guys. I've said this before. You have to optimize your players. You're not optimizing your players, taking them out in the fourth.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, 100%, right? And I mean, we're bringing all this stuff up right now because, as Adam's saying, Mark Shapiro, he's got his big press conference tomorrow.
Whoa, time for your daily Betway breather. A quick reminder that the best place to bet is on Betway. Must be 19 years of age or older to play. In collaboration with iGaming Ontario, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
Ross Atkins had his on Saturday. It was a cataclysmic disaster. We've been saying it. The entire Toronto media has been saying it. You guys have been saying it. It just wasn't good. And Mark Shapiro, he is at a crossroads right now. He needs to win back this fan base. Hell, he's got to win back his players.
Yes.
His players are all coming up. We've seen Whit Merrifield. We've seen Bo Bichette. We have seen multiple different individuals on the Toronto Blue Jays come out and call and just ask, what are these decisions that are being made right now? You're getting Ken Rosenthal, the nicest analyst in the entire baseball world, call you out for being paper tigers and for being overrated. And you're also getting the Toronto Blue Jays fan base inquiring about where is our social media presence. The Toronto Blue Jays, up until today, where they just posted something in reference to what's going on in Israel right now, which we do give our full support to, by the way, terrorism, there's no space for that at any point in the world. That's the one thing that they've tweeted since the playoff loss. They've not tweeted a single other thing. And everybody right now on Twitter is wondering, what is this radio silence for? Is somebody getting fired? What are we doing, everybody? All we've heard is Ross Atkins talk out of his ass. Mark Shapiro is going to be on the hot seat tomorrow, and he's got to answer for Whit Merrifield, for Ken Rosenthal, for the lack of a social media presence, for the analytics. He's got a lot to talk about.
I got a great answer for that lack of a social media presence. I mean, an angry mob is out there right now as the Toronto Blue Jays fan base. This is probably the most angriest this Blue Jay fan base has been probably since I've been a Blue Jay fan. I mean, at least it was 2015, 2016, like after we sold all the guys, we understood. They were getting old, the contracts were expiring, it wasn't working anymore. This time around, this is the hottest it's ever been. And what do you do with an angry mob or angry internet users, as I should say? Do not engage. Anything you post on social media, you post Vladdy, he's, great, here's his numbers, or like, here's him smiling, it's gonna be attacked. They're going to be attacked. So what that's gonna do is gonna add fuel to the fire and remind that angry mob about how disappointed they are with the team. So them pulling out of social media is a way and a strategy to not poke the bear.
I'm not saying that you're not right, but I'm also saying that we're sitting here talking about it right now. People on Twitter are talking about it.
Right.
Regardless of the decision you make, whether you post or you don't post, you are going to be sending a message. And right now, the message, by not saying anything at all, is that we don't want to be held accountable for what's going on, or alternatively, you're going to come out tomorrow, Mark Shapiro, and somebody's job is going to be on the line. And that's what a lot of the speculation has been right now.
That's what it has to be. You have to wait until your president says something. It's like a country is in shambles right now. You have to wait for your president to come out and address the entire nation, right? Like social media team, just to break it down to like a core, it's probably a bunch of guys like us, working on their social media team. And they've probably been told by the Toronto Blue Jays organization, they're like, hey, let's calm it down. I think that's what it is. They're probably been told by Mark until Mark Shapiro comes out and says some more stuff.
But potentially so, man. Where we're coming from here, folks, is that Mark Shapiro, he's going to have a lot to answer for. And as far as I'm concerned, as a Toronto Blue Jays fan, I need to hear what analytics you guys are using and how it's going to play a part in the Toronto Blue Jays moving forward. I need to know what the plan is for that moving forward, because it wasn't working this year. We were trying some things. It wasn't happening. That is something that needs to be number one. I also want to know, what are your thoughts about the Toronto Blue Jays and their feelings towards your decision making? Because there was no comment at that at all about Ross Atkins. I want to know, how are you going to talk to these players? Because it's clear the fans aren't the only ones that are pissed off right now. The players are pissed off. And when you start to lose the players, it's all going to go to shit.
Right. You asked me on Monday for our Blue Jays Today show what I needed to hear from Mark Shapiro. Now it's been a couple days. What do you need to hear now?
That thing.
That's it.
I want to hear
it?
that. I mean, ideally, I would like to hear that somebody is going to get fired.
Yeah. Do you think there's a reality where Mark Shapiro gets fired or not Mark Shapiro? Is there a reality where you think Ross Atkins gets fired by Mark Shapiro?
I think that Mark Shapiro is safe, and really the only reason that he's safe is because the Rogers Center is under renovation right now.
Right.
That's going to save his job. I think that there is a slight reality based on the fact that they've been completely silent on social media and just the overall response from Toronto Blue Jays fans, from the players, from the analysts about what Ross Atkins had to come out and say. I do think that there is a slight reality that yes, Ross Atkins could be fired. Still unlikely. I think that there is a growing reality that somebody in the coaching staff, not John Schneider, is going to lose their job tomorrow. I think that's very possible. I think that maybe the hitting coach, maybe somebody aligned in that guy, somebody could lose their job there. I think that's a growing reality. I think that there's also a growing reality that Mark Shapiro is going to come out and talk out of his ass, and that's the last thing that we need to see tomorrow.
Yeah, because if he does that, the bear will get more angry. Yeah, that's for sure. You're not gonna solve anything.
Yeah, and you're going to continue to hear your Toronto Blue Jays teammates come out and call this management out. That is something that cannot continue in this offseason, everybody. Right now, it has just been an embarrassment. And like I said, when it rains, it pours, and it is pouring right now for these Toronto Blue Jays. And Mark, you got a lot of answer for.
Yeah, he does, man. He does. And I also want to give a little comment on that whole Ross Atkins thing. I know everyone wants him to be like, all right, Ross Atkins, he's fired. Reality, guys, they've been working together for the last 8 years. I don't think Mark Shapiro would address the media without Mark knowing, of course. I think Mark would know if he was getting fired.
Yes.
I think it wouldn't happen on such a stage like that, because that's, quite frankly, embarrassing for someone who you've worked with for 8 years. That's really, just kind of embarrassing. So I think if he were to get fired, it probably would have happened already. It would have happened already. It wouldn't have happened in a stage like this.
Yeah, most likely that is the case, everybody. Let us know in your in the comments down below your thoughts about what is going to happen tomorrow, everybody. We're going to be paying very close attention to this. It's very possible that Adam may have to go live tomorrow at some point just to cover the reaction and give that instant just oh my God moment, when he does come out and hey, we're signing Ohtani, and
oh my God,
that's the best case.
Yo, that'd be crazy news. We're going to go after Ohtani and fix everything.
Yeah, it's all solved now. Yeah, literally everything is forgiven. We're all good. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.
Guys, and $3 a month to become a Patreon member. Shout out and thank you to all of our current Patreon members. You guys are awesome. And as well, our YouTube members. You guys are absolutely legendary.
Thank you so much for watching.
And go Jays, go!